Captain Daniel Martinez stood at the viewport of the UES Solidarity, watching the massive Confederation station, Harmonious Unity, grow larger against the backdrop of stars. After decades of tense relations between humans and the 5 major species of the Galactic Confederation, this meeting represented their best hope for peace. 2 minutes until docking, Captain, said Communications Officer Stephanie Ford from her station. Her voice was steady, but Daniel could hear the underlying tension. Thank you, Ford. Is the delegation ready? Ambassador Lisa Wright approached, her formal diplomatic uniform pristine. As ready as we'll ever be. The evidence files are prepared and encrypted. She lowered her voice. I don't trust the Saurians. They've been too quiet lately. Daniel nodded. The reptilian Saurians had always been the most vocal opponents of human expansion. Stay alert. We're here for peace, but we're not naive. The human delegation consisted of 6 key members. Daniel as military escort, Lisa as lead diplomat, Chief Science Officer Paul Collins, Communications Officer Stephanie Ford, Security Chief Kevin Robinson, and Defense Attaché Gary Peterson. Each carried data tablets with carefully prepared presentations. The Solidarity docked with a gentle thud. As the airlock cycled, Security Chief Robinson performed one final check of their equipment. Remember, no weapons beyond this point is agreed. The station is neutral territory. They stepped through the airlock into the cavernous docking bay of Harmonious Unity. The station was a marvel of engineering, a massive ring structure capable of housing representatives from thousands of worlds. The air smelled faintly of the chemical neutralizers used to make the atmosphere tolerable for all species. A delegation waited for them, representatives of the 5 Confederation Council species. The insectoid Vesperi clicked their mandibles in formal greeting. The aquatic Melosians rippled their translucent skin in welcome patterns. The crystalline Quanta reflected light in specific sequences that their translators rendered as polite phrases. The gaseous nebulids hovered in their containment suits, changing colors to express diplomatic openness. And the Saurians simply watched with unblinking vertical pupil eyes. Welcome to Harmonious Unity, said the Melosian representative, its voice bubbling through its translator. We are pleased the humans have finally agreed to formal talks. Lisa stepped forward. The pleasure is ours. Earth has long awaited this opportunity. The delegation was escorted to the Grand Council chamber, a circular room with 5 elevated platforms for the council members and a central speaking area. As they walked, Paul Collins discreetly checked readings on his tablet. Captain, he whispered, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures around the station, not matching any standard systems. Daniel frowned but kept walking. Keep monitoring. Once seated, the formal introductions began. Each species presented their delegates with elaborate titles and credentials. When the Saurian delegate Cassith was introduced, Daniel noticed the subtle tensing of its neck frills, a sign of aggression he remembered from briefings. Lisa presented Earth's opening statement with perfect diplomatic poise. We come seeking understanding and cooperation. For too long, misunderstandings have kept our peoples apart. She displayed evidence of repeated border incursions into human space, presenting it not as accusations, but as matters requiring clarification. The Melosians and Quanters seemed receptive, leaning forward with interest. The nebulids shifted to a color indicating thoughtful consideration. But the Saurian delegate Cass made a dismissive gesture. These alleged incursions, if they occurred at all, were likely misidentified scientific vessels. Humans are known to be paranoid. Lisa maintained her composure. We have detailed sensor logs that distinguish between scientific and military configurations. Impossible, Cass hissed. Your technology is not sophisticated enough. The chamber grew tense. The Vesperi representative attempted to mediate, but Cass continued. Perhaps we should discuss instead the human weapons development program in violation of preliminary agreements. Daniel stepped forward. That is a false accusation. We have adhered to all. Suddenly, His communication feed went dead. The translator stopped working. He tapped it, but nothing happened. Looking around, he saw confusion on the faces of the other delegates. Something was very wrong. The Saurians were smiling. Communications officer Stephanie Ford's fingers flew across her tablet. "Captain, we've been jammed," she whispered urgently. "This isn't a technical failure. Someone is blocking our signals deliberately." Security Chief Kevin Robinson had already shifted to a defensive stance. His eyes scanned the chamber, noting the increased movement of Confederation security forces along the perimeter. "They're boxing us in," he murmured. Daniel kept his face neutral despite the alarm bells ringing in his mind. 30 years ago, humans had been deemed too aggressive to join the Confederation. Too unpredictable. Too dangerous. It had taken decades of peaceful expansion and careful diplomacy to reach this point. Now it seems someone wanted to prove those old fears correct. Ambassador Lisa Wright caught Daniel's eye and made a subtle gesture with her hand. It was a pre-arranged signal they had developed before the mission. Protocol Omega. Immediate withdrawal without notice. Daniel gave a barely perceptible nod. "Prepare to move," he whispered to the team. The alien delegates continued arguing among themselves. The Vesperi representative was clicking its mandibles rapidly at the Saurian delegate, while the Melosian's skin had darkened to a stormy blue. Only the Nebulid seemed to notice the human's subtle movements, its containment suit shifting to a curious yellow. "We cannot allow baseless accusations to derail these historic talks," the Quantor delegate was saying, light refracting through its crystalline form in patterns of distress. Lisa stood up slowly. All eyes turned to her. For a moment, Daniel thought she might speak, might try one last diplomatic effort. Instead, she placed a single data chip on the table. Without a word, she turned and began walking toward the exit. Daniel and the rest of the delegation rose in unison and followed. The chamber fell silent as the significance of their actions dawned on the alien representatives. "What is the meaning of this?" the Saurian delegate hissed, rising to his full height. "The session is not concluded." Daniel kept walking, his team moving in perfect formation behind Lisa. Years of training had prepared them for this scenario. A diplomatic situation turned hostile. Their ship was ready. Their path to it was clear. And Protocol Omega was clear. No engagement, no escalation, no explanation. The Confederation security forces seemed unsure how to respond. Their orders hadn't prepared them for humans simply walking away. "The humans are leaving." The Vesperi's translator struggled to convey the shock in its clicking speech. "Stop them." Paul Collins kept his eyes on his tablet, monitoring the unusual energy signatures. "Captain," he said quietly as they walked, "those energy readings are consistent with weapons charging." Daniel nodded but didn't break stride. "Expected. Keep moving." The delegation reached the corridor leading back to the docking bay. Behind them, the chamber had erupted into chaos. The Quantor delegate was sending rapid light patterns to someone off-chamber, while the Melosian was arguing intensely with the Saurian. Ambassador Wright called the Nebulid representative, floating quickly after them. "Please explain your departure. Has offense been given?" Lisa kept walking, her face a mask of diplomatic neutrality. They'd reached the Solidarity without incident. As the airlock cycled closed behind them, Daniel finally allowed himself to breathe. "Status report," he ordered. "Docking clamps still engage," reported Gary Peterson from the engineering station. "But I can override." "Communications still jammed," added Stephanie. "I can't get a message to Earth." "We have company," Kevin warned, looking at the security feed. Confederation security forces were gathering outside the airlock. "Break the clamps," Daniel ordered. "Get us out of here." The Solidarity shuddered as Peterson forced the docking clamps open. Outside, the security forces began trying to override the airlock controls. "We have incoming communications from the station," Stephanie reported. "Multiple channels. They're demanding we return to the talks." Lisa looked at Daniel. "The data chip contains everything they need to know. Engines are hot. Peterson reported, "Ready to jump when you give the word." On the view screens, they could see the faces of the Confederation delegates watching from the station windows. Shock, anger, confusion. And on the Saurian faces, something else. Frustration. "Take us out," Daniel ordered. "Execute jump as soon as we're clear." The Solidarity pulled away from the station. The stars outside began to blur as the FTL drive engaged. The last thing Daniel saw before the jump was the horrified faces of the galactic leaders, watching as the humans chose silence over conflict. News of the humans' sudden departure spread across Confederation space faster than their ship could travel. On hundreds of worlds, beams of all species gathered around information terminals, buzzing with theories and concerns. War seemed inevitable to many. The humans had always been unpredictable, but walking away from peace talks was unprecedented. On Earth, Defense Director Amanda Wilson sat straight-backed in her office as the encrypted message from the Solidarity arrived. Her face remained calm as she absorbed the information, but her knuckles turned white around her tablet. "Get me the president," she said to her assistant. "Now." Within the hour, President Eric Johnson had convened an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. The underground chamber was filled with 20 of Earth's highest officials, their faces grave as they watched the recording from Ambassador Wright. The Saurians deliberately sabotaged the talks. Lisa's recorded image explained. "We had no choice but to enact Protocol Omega. Remaining would have played into their hands." The president nodded slowly. "Admiral Bennett, what's the status of our fleet?" Admiral Frank Bennett, a weathered man with sharp eyes, activated the central display. "The dormant defense fleet is now at full readiness, sir. Ships are positioned near all major colonies and stations." "But no offensive posture," President Johnson clarified. "No, sir. Defensive positions only, as per Protocol Omega." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message. "The Vesperi ambassador to Earth requests an immediate audience," announced the communications officer. President Johnson straightened his jacket. "Send him in." Ambassador Tezect entered, his insect-like body moving with unusual haste. President Johnson. The translator converted his clicks and chirps. "The Confederation demands explanation. Your delegates abandoned established diplomatic procedure." "Did they?" President Johnson's voice was calm. "Tell me, Ambassador, does the Confederation consider communication jamming and weapons activation to be established diplomatic procedure?" The Vesperi's antennae twitched in surprise. "These are serious accusations. They are facts, Ambassador Tizect. Facts that will soon become clear to everyone." Meanwhile, on the Confederation station Harmonious Unity, the council chamber had devolved into chaos. The Melosian and Quanta representatives were loudly accusing the Saurian delegation of sabotage. The humans detected weapons charging. The Melosian representative bubbled angrily, skin flashing with bright colors. "Explain this violation of neutral ground." The Saurian delegate Cass hissed defensively. "Humans are paranoid. They imagine threats where none exist." "Then you will not object to a full investigation of station systems." The crystalline Quanta representative refracted light in patterns of skepticism. Back on the Solidarity, now safely in FTL travel, the human delegation reviewed their next steps. "The data chip will activate in approximately 6 hours," Intelligence Officer Olivia Mitchell explained. "Once it does, the evidence will broadcast across all Confederation channels." Daniel nodded. "And if the Saurians try to destroy it?" Olivia smiled slightly. "The chip contains multiple redundancies. Destroying it would only trigger immediate broadcast." Lisa Wright looked troubled. "This was not how I hoped these talks would go. Decades of work." "It's not over," Daniel reassured her. "We chose not to escalate. That choice matters." On Earth, as the hours passed, tension grew. Military vessels from various Confederation species had been detected moving toward human space, though they remained in their own territory. Then, exactly 6 hours after the humans' departure, something remarkable happened across Confederation space. Every information terminal, every communication device, every news feed suddenly displayed the same message. Truth cannot remain hidden. What followed was a comprehensive data package, meticulously organized. It showed documented evidence of Saurian treaty violations spanning 2 decades. It revealed surveillance operations against human colonies. It included recorded conversations between Saurian military officials discussing plans to provoke humans into aggressive action during the peace talks. Most importantly, it showed that humans had been aware of being monitored during the talks, had detected the weapons charging, and had chosen to leave rather than confront. The final piece was a simple recorded message from Captain Daniel Martinez. "We came in peace. We left in peace. The choice now belongs to the Confederation." Across 1,000 worlds, beings of all species watched in stunned silence. The Saurian delegation on harmonious unity found themselves surrounded by security forces from other species. And in that moment, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted in an entirely unexpected direction. The data chip left by Ambassador Wright continued broadcasting across all Confederation channels. No attempt to block the signal worked. The evidence was clear and detailed, impossible to dismiss. It showed years of Saurian aggression, carefully hidden from the other Confederation species. But the most powerful part of the broadcast was not the evidence of treaty violations. It was the second section, a recording that showed the humans had known they were under surveillance during the peace talks. They had detected the weapons charging. They had every justification to respond with force. And they had chosen to walk away instead. "We had options," Captain Martinez said in the recording. "We could have revealed the Saurian plot during the talks. We could have demanded sanctions. We could have shown outrage." He paused, his expression serious. "Instead, we chose to leave, to step back from provocation, to deny the cycle of escalation." The third section of the data contained something unexpected, a historical database showing Earth's violent past. It did not hide the wars, the conflicts, the times when humans had chosen aggression. But it also showed how humanity had grown beyond those impulses, how they had united their world and reached for the stars with a commitment to peace. "We know what we were," Ambassador Wright's voice explained. "We know what we could become again. That is why we choose differently now." The final section contained just 7 words. "We choose peace, even when denied it." The impact was immediate and dramatic. On hundreds of Confederation worlds, citizens began protesting their government's policies toward Earth. The carefully nurtured fear of humans that some leaders had cultivated for decades began to crumble. In the Confederation Council chamber, the Malosian representative was the first to publicly break ties with the Saurians. "We will no longer stand with those who seek war through deception," the aquatic being declared, skin flashing with patterns of righteous anger. The crystalline Quanter followed suit, their light patterns displaying a formal withdrawal of support. "The evidence is mathematically conclusive. The Saurians have violated 97 separate treaty provisions. Only the Nebulids maintained their traditional neutrality, though their containment suits now displayed colors of deep concern." On Earth, President Johnson addressed the planet from the Global Unity Hall in Geneva. Billions watched as he stood before the simple podium. "Today, we have shown the galaxy who we truly are," he said, "not through grand speeches or displays of force, but through restraint, through the conscious choice to walk away rather than be provoked." He looked directly into the camera. "We will not seek retribution, but we will not be bullied. We will not be manipulated, and we will not abandon our commitment to peace." The speech was brief but powerful. As it was translated and broadcast across human colonies, cheers erupted. Humans had long carried the unfair reputation as the galaxy's dangerous species. Now they had shown a different face to the stars. Aboard the Solidarity, still traveling through FTL space toward Earth, Daniel Martinez watched the speech with his crew. The mood was solemn but resolute. "Captain," Communications Officer Stephanie Ford called from her station, "we're receiving thousands of messages from across Confederation space. Most appear to be from individual citizens expressing support. Lisa Wright smiled for the first time since leaving the station. Perhaps we've achieved more by walking away than we ever could have by staying. Their moment of hope was short-lived. An urgent alert sounded throughout the ship. Emergency transmission from Alpha Centauri Research Outpost. Ford reported, her expression changing to one of alarm. They're under attack. The view screen displayed the outpost, a primarily scientific research station with minimal defenses. Around it, 3 Saurian warships had taken aggressive positions. It's the Saurian High Command, Intelligence Officer Olivia Mitchell said grimly. They're trying to force our hand. Daniel's jaw tightened as he watched the Saurian ships move into attack formation. Set course for Alpha Centauri, he ordered. Maximum speed. The Solidarity changed direction, racing toward the endangered outpost. The question hung silently in the air. Could humanity maintain its commitment to peace when directly attacked? The Alpha Centauri research outpost hung against the blackness of space, its circular structure gleaming in the light of the nearby star. Around it, 3 Saurian warships moved into attack positions, their weapons already glowing with charged energy. Inside the outpost, 52 human scientists worked frantically to boost their shields. They were researchers, not soldiers, and the station had never been designed for combat. Still, they moved with surprising calm and purpose. Primary shields at maximum, reported Dr. Alan Phillips, the outpost's director. But they weren't built to withstand military-grade weapons. Help is coming, his assistant assured him. Earth has been notified. The lead Saurian ship fired, a bright beam of energy streaking toward the station. The scientists braced themselves, but when the beam hit the shields, something unexpected happened. Instead of penetrating or causing damage, the energy seemed to spread out, absorbed by the shield itself. The Saurian ships paused, clearly surprised. They fired again, this time with all 3 ships simultaneously. Again, the shields held, glowing brighter with each impact, but showing no signs of failure. The Solidarity dropped out of FTL travel at the edge of the system, its sensors immediately detecting the attack in progress. The outpost shields are holding, Communications Officer Ford reported with surprise. How is that possible? Chief Engineer Gary Peterson leaned forward, studying the readings. Those aren't standard shields, he said with a small smile. They're running our new absorption technology. It uses the energy of attacks to strengthen itself. Captain Martinez watched the scene carefully. Open a channel to the outpost, he ordered. Dr. Phillips appeared on screen, looking tense but unharmed. Captain Martinez, your timing is excellent. Your shields are performing beyond expectations, Doctor. Do you need evacuation? Not yet, Phillips replied. We can hold out, but we won't last forever against this kind of firepower. Daniel nodded. We'll move to assist. Solidarity out. He turned to his crew. Tactical options. Security Chief Robinson spoke up. We could disable their weapons systems with targeted strikes. Can we do that without casualties? Daniel asked. Likely, but not guaranteed, Robinson admitted. Daniel thought for a moment. No, we maintain our position. Weapons powered down. I want the Saurians to see that we're here, but not attacking. The crew exchanged glances, but followed his orders without question. The Solidarity moved closer to the outpost, clearly visible to the Saurian ships, but with all weapons systems obviously inactive. The Saurian ships paused their attack, clearly confused by this response. Their commanders had expected either a heavily armed defense fleet or a panicked evacuation. They had not prepared for a single ship approaching peacefully while their attack proved ineffective. After a few moments of apparent indecision, the Saurian ships resumed firing at the outpost, increasing their weapon output to maximum. Captain, Ford called out, Admiral Bennett's fleet has arrived at the edge of the system. The view screen showed 5 Earth Defense Fleet vessels dropping out of FTL. They were larger than the Solidarity and heavily armed. They're asking for orders to engage, Ford reported. Daniel's answer was immediate. Tell them to hold position. Weapons powered down. The bridge crew stared at him in disbelief. "Sir," Robinson said carefully, "the Saurians are attacking our people." "And our people are safe," Daniel replied calmly. "The shields are holding. If we attack now, we justify everything the Saurians have said about us. We become the aggressors they've painted us to be." The Saurian ships, noticing the arrival of the Earth fleet, increased the intensity of their attack, clearly desperate to cause damage before being engaged. "Their weapons are overheating," Peterson reported. "They can't maintain this level of fire for long." Daniel nodded. "And when they stop, having accomplished nothing, the entire galaxy will see that humans chose peace even when directly attacked." As if on cue, new ships appeared from FTL, not human vessels, but Confederation peacekeepers. A joint Melosian Quantar fleet surrounded the Saurian attackers. "Captain," Ford said, her voice filled with wonder, "these feeds are being broadcast live across the Confederation. Everyone is watching." The Saurian ships found themselves caught between the human fleet that refused to attack and the Confederation forces that demanded their surrender. In that moment, the galaxy's perception of humanity changed forever. The attacking Saurian ships found themselves surrounded by the joint Melosian Quantar peacekeeping fleet. The sleek Melosian vessels shimmered with their distinctive blue shields, while the angular Quantar ships positioned themselves in a mathematically perfect containment formation. "Saurian vessels, power down your weapons immediately," came the command from the Melosian flagship. "You are in violation of Confederation law and direct orders from the Council." The Saurian ships hesitated, their weapons still aimed at the human research outpost. For a tense moment, it seemed they might continue their attack, or even turn on the Confederation vessels. Across thousands of worlds, billions of beings watched the confrontation unfold through live feeds. The images were striking. Human ships with their weapons visibly powered down, facing Saurian aggressors who had attacked a scientific installation. "Look at the humans," said a Vesperi news commentator, mandibles clicking with excitement. "Their fleet is in position to defend, yet they hold fire." On the trading worlds of the Vesperi guilds, guild masters were already announcing a complete embargo on Saurian territories. The crystalline Quantar, normally reserved in their judgments, had released official calculations showing the statistical improbability that the Saurians were acting in self-defense as they claimed. Even the normally neutral nebulids had taken the unprecedented step of offering sanctuary to any human refugees should the conflict escalate. On the Saurian homeworld of Saurius Prime, the civilian government watched the live feeds with growing alarm. The military action had been launched without their approval, a clear violation of their own laws. "General Hiskvac must be removed from command immediately," declared the Saurian Prime Minister to his emergency cabinet. "This unauthorized aggression threatens our entire civilization." Back at Alpha Centauri, Captain Martinez opened a channel that would broadcast to all ships present and through the live feeds to the watching galaxy. "This is Captain Daniel Martins of the UES Solidarity," he said, his voice calm and measured. "To the Saurian vessels, we see you. We understand what you are trying to do. You wish to provoke us into becoming what you have claimed we are: violent, aggressive, dangerous." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We did not come to fight. We will not be provoked into becoming what you fear. We choose a different path." The Saurian commander hissed in frustration. Their plan had failed completely. The human shields had not fallen. The human fleet had not attacked. And now the Confederation itself had turned against them. Slowly, the lights on the Saurian ships dimmed as they powered down their weapons. On the bridges of those ships, Confederation security forces were already appearing through transport portals, moving to place the commanders under arrest. The immediate crisis was over. The research station remained intact, its new shield technology having proven its worth in the most public way possible. The human fleet maintained its disciplined formation, weapons still powered down even as the situation resolved. On Earth, President Johnson received word of the encounter's peaceful resolution. And the feed. It went out to the entire Confederation. "Yes, sir," confirmed Defense Director Wilson. Every populated world saw the Saurian attack and our response, or rather, our deliberate lack of response. Johnson nodded with satisfaction. Sometimes the strongest move is the one you choose not to make. Across Confederation space, the conversations had already shifted. For decades, humans had been portrayed as the dangerous outsiders, the unpredictable threat to galactic peace. Now, billions of beings had witnessed a different reality. They could have destroyed those ships, a young Melosian said to her parent as they watched the feeds. Why didn't they? Because they are not what we were told they were, the elder Melosian replied, skin rippling with patterns of new understanding. On the Saurian homeworld, political upheaval had begun. Civilian leaders learned of military actions taken without approval, of deliberate provocations, and manufactured evidence. In the streets, citizens demanded answers. And throughout it all, the human fleet remained in position at Alpha Centauri, a silent testament to a strength few in the galaxy had understood until now, the strength to choose restraint when given every reason for retribution. 3 months passed. Earth had changed in that time. The planet had become the center of interstellar attention, with diplomatic vessels from across the Confederation arriving daily. For the first time in history, the Confederation had agreed to meet on human territory. Ambassador Lisa Wright stood at the window of her office in Geneva, watching as the final preparations were made in the Grand Hall below. The historic peace conference would begin tomorrow. Unlike the disastrous meeting at Harmonious Unity, this time the humans were hosting. Everything must be transparent, she told her staff. Every room open to all delegates. No private security beyond personal escorts. Trust begins with openness. Her assistant nodded, making notes. The Quantar delegation has arrived. The Melosians will be here within the hour. Lisa smiled. And the Nebulets, already setting up their environmental chambers in the East Wing. In another wing of the building, Dr. Nicole Adams was preparing her presentation. Spread before her were the technical diagrams of the shield technology that had saved the Alpha Centauri outpost. The principle is simple, she explained to the international team. Instead of trying to block energy, we absorb it. The more they attacked, the stronger our shields became. One of the scientists looked up from studying the diagrams. This technology could have been weaponized. You could have designed it to redirect the energy back at the attackers. Nicole nodded. We could have. We chose not to. Across the city, Captain Martinez, now Admiral Martinez, met with the newly formed Diplomatic Fleet Command. 20 ship captains sat around the table, each representing different nations of Earth. Our mission has changed, Daniel told them. We are no longer preparing for potential conflict. We are the face of humanity to the galaxy. How we present ourselves, how we act, especially in difficult situations, this defines Earth now. One of the captains raised a hand. Sir, what about the Saurians? Can we trust them after what happened? Daniel considered the question carefully. Trust must be earned. But peace means everyone, or it means nothing. The day of the conference arrived. The Geneva Peace Hall was filled with representatives from across the Confederation. At the center of the Grand Chamber, a circular table allowed all species to face each other as equals. The Quantar delegate Rix was the first to speak, light patterns shimmering through its crystalline form. On behalf of the Confederation Council, I present our formal apology to the human delegation and to all people of Earth. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. The evidence presented has been verified, Rix continued. Elements within our Confederation acted against our shared principles. They sought conflict when we had promised peace. Ambassador Wright acknowledged the apology with a respectful nod. Earth accepts your words and the spirit in which they are offered. President Johnson stepped forward. Today marks a new beginning, but not just in our relationship with the Confederation. He activated a large display above the center of the table. It showed star maps, dozens of systems that humans had explored but left unclaimed. These are habitable worlds we have discovered in our explorations, he explained. We have surveyed them but claimed none. We propose a joint initiative, shared exploration and settlement, with resources and benefits distributed equally among all peaceful species. The delegates broke into excited discussion. The concept was revolutionary. No species had ever voluntarily shared discovered territories before claiming them. The nebulid representative floated forward, its containment suit shifting to colors of optimism. The nebulid collective would be honored to participate in this joint exploration. From the back of the chamber came a voice. As would the new Saurian government, if you would accept us. The room fell silent as a Saurian delegate stepped forward. Unlike the military representatives of the past, this was a civilian scientist, her scales bearing the markings of the reformist movement. Former Security Chief Kevin Robinson, now serving as an ambassador himself, was the first to respond. If we exclude anyone from peace, then it isn't really peace at all, is it? He extended his hand to the Saurian delegate. After a moment's hesitation, she took it. The chamber erupted in applause. In that moment, something truly new began in the long history of galactic relations. 1 year later, a new ship prepared for launch from Earth orbit. Unlike previous vessels, this one had been built with contributions from all species of the Confederation. Its sleek hull contained living quarters designed for each of the 5 major species plus humans. Its name, written in the languages of 6 different worlds, translated to Second Chance. Admiral Daniel Martinez stood at the command center, surveying the mixed crew. Beside him was Melosian co-captain Wavelord Glimmercia, their translucent skin rippling with excitement patterns. Pre-launch checks complete, reported Communications Officer Stephanie Ford, who had chosen to join this historic mission. Engineering reports ready, added Chief Engineer Gary Peterson, now working alongside a quantum crystal technician whose light patterns complemented the ship's systems. Daniel glanced at the small Saurian contingent working at the science station. They were younger members of their species, part of the reform movement that had taken control after the political upheaval. They worked diligently, aware that they carried the burden of their species' past actions. "This is Admiral Martinez to all crew." Daniel spoke into the ship-wide communication system. "Today we begin something unprecedented. Not just exploration, but exploration together. Our differences are our strength. Remember that when challenges arise." The ship launched smoothly, its advanced engines propelling it away from Earth. As they prepared for their first FTL jump, Daniel thought about how much had changed. Ambassador Lisa Wright's diplomatic framework had become the foundation for a new interstellar charter, signed by all member species including the reformed Saurian government. Earth had been formally welcomed into the Confederation, no longer as a potential threat, but as a valued member. The Second Chance traveled for 3 months, mapping unexplored regions of space. The crew worked well together, each species bringing unique perspectives and abilities. When they encountered problems, they found solutions that no single species could have developed alone. Then, at the edge of charted space, their sensors detected something unusual. "It appears to be an artificial structure," reported the Vesperi science officer, mandibles clicking with excitement. "Very old," added the Saurian scientist, "perhaps thousands of years." The structure turned out to be an enormous space station, far more advanced than anything currently known to the Confederation. It had clearly been abandoned long ago, floating silently in the void between stars. A team from the Second Chance boarded the station. Daniel led the group himself, along with representatives from each species. They moved carefully through the ancient corridors, their lights illuminating surfaces untouched for millennia. "Look at this," called Paul Collins, who had joined the mission as science advisor. He pointed to wall markings that appeared to be a form of writing. The quanterlinguist moved forward, light patterns shifting as they analyzed the symbols. "It appears to be a warning," they communicated, "and a history." Over the next days, the team worked to decipher the records left behind. They discovered that the station had belonged to a highly advanced civilization called the predecessors. This species had spread across hundreds of systems, developing technology beyond anything currently known. but they had destroyed themselves through conflict. They split into factions, explained the nebulid researcher, hovering near a display of ancient star maps. They fought over resources, over ideology, over tiny differences. In the end, their weapons were too powerful. Their civilization collapsed. The records showed that the station had been built as a warning to future spacefaring species. The final message, when translated, was simple: unite or perish. As the crew of the Second Chance worked together to study the ancient technology, former enemies became essential allies. Each species contributed unique insights that would have been impossible alone. 6 months later, the Second Chance returned to Confederation space with its discoveries. The ancient warning resonated deeply with all species. In the Grand Hall of the Galactic Confederation on Harmonious Unity Station, a formal vote was held. Earth was unanimously accepted as a full member, with Admiral Martinez chosen as the first human to join the High Council. As Daniel entered the hall to thunderous applause from delegates of 1,000 worlds, he paused to shake hands with the new Saurian delegate. Their eyes met in mutual understanding. The circle was complete. The camera pulled back, showing the station against the backdrop of countless stars. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not through force or fear, but through the strength to choose peace when given every reason for war.